Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me tonight is my co-host.
Hello everybody, my name's Kyle.
And tonight we're taking a look at one of the films that is guaranteed to be one of the biggest releases of this year. And of course, we've kind of been a little bit unlucky as critics over the last few years. A lot of films have come out with screeners and stuff like that, but no, Paramount went back what we're used to with a huge, great, big opening premiere for Top Gun Maverick. And in my eyes, the film lived up to it. So let's take a little bit of a look at the storyline without giving away too much. But basically, Maverick, played by Tom Cruise, is back. At the start of the film, he's working as a test pilot, but he's soon called back into the Navy by Iceman, played by Val Kilmer, who needs him for a top secret mission. Now, for this mission, he finds himself under the watchful eyes of Cyclone, a character played by John Hamm, who doesn't particularly want Maverick there because of his reputation and things that he's done in the past with the Navy. But they agree to work together and put together this elite team, which includes Rooster, played by Miles Teller, which, of course, if you've seen the trailer or seen any of the previews, I could spoil this, is Goose's son. And that's amongst a whole bunch of other characters that we'll talk about a little bit later as well, including Phoenix, played by Monica Barbaro, and Bob, played by Lewis Pullman. So, mate, I know you're like me. I know that the original Top Gun is a film that you absolutely love. So you went into this with high expectations. How did you leave the cinema afterwards?
Oh, I loved it. I think you said, something that you had said was about it's good to see a movie actually living up to the hype.
Yep.
And yeah, I 100% agree with this. I mean, and this is a movie that has been hyped for a while. I think we've said it a few times in different episodes, but this is probably the movie that, as far as COVID delays with movies releases, this is probably the one that has been pushed back the longest.
Yep.
And the one I think we've been seeing the trailers for this movie for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so for it to finally come out and for it to finally live up to the hype, I was amazed by it. I mean, I'm enjoying a lot of Mission Impossibles and American Made and a lot of Tom Cruise's recent more spectacle films that he's been making a lot more recently. I've enjoyed them, but this one was one that I was really looking forward to, even more so, not just because it was a sequel to Top Gun, but because it was being directed by Joseph Kosinski, who worked on Tron Legacy and Oblivion and Only the Brave. And I think that his movies, well, specifically Tron Legacy, is probably, as far as all the movies that I've seen in IMAX and 3D IMAX, Tron Legacy is the best looking movie that I've ever seen in IMAX, as far as the spectacle and just how amazing it looked. And for Tom Cruise and for Kosinski to both pair up on this movie, I was super excited for it to see what they could pull off together, and yeah, they just blew me away. I loved it. What did you think of it, dude? Because I know that you're an even bigger fan of the original movie than I am.
Yeah, look, Top Gun was one of those movies that I remember. It was one of the first, I think, VHSs that we ever had in our household. So, and because I was a film buff even as a kid, as soon as we had it on VHS, I think I wore out the first VHS we had of it because I just watched it all the time. I can remember as a kid, as our VHS library kind of grew, we got movies like E.T. and stuff like that, but Top Gun was always a film I went back to. I love the soundtrack as well. I think that was also a soundtrack that I had on cassette. So for this film, it's been a real love affair with this movie. It was, I think, one of those films that kind of made me fall in love with cinema when I was a kid. And of course, every 10 years or so, there would be another rumor of, there's going to be another Top Gun film, and I'd kind of get my hopes up a little bit, and then Tom Cruise would do another interview, and he'd say, yeah, it's been talked about, but there's nothing there that I like yet, kind of thing. I think even when they first started talking about this one, I was kind of like, yeah, it won't happen, kind of thing. And then I remember they originally announced it was opening on my birthday, and I was like, oh my god, it's like the perfect birthday present of all time. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that got wrecked. But I think that actually made me more nervous about the film, because once I knew that the film actually was being made, and there was trailers out there, and then everything was pushed back, I think my excitement got even more so. And then by the time we actually got to the premiere, that excitement had kind of died down a little bit, just because over the last couple of months, a few films have come out that I was really looking forward to, and then when I went to see them, I was really disappointed, like the Nicolas Cage film. I'd been looking forward to that for about 12 months, and then saw it and just went, it's okay. And then Everything, Everywhere, All at Once came out, and I was expecting something great with that, and I got a pile of dog crap. So
I disagree with that, but still, yeah.
Yeah, so by the time Top Gun came around, I pretty much had convinced myself that, this is going to be crap. But then it just absolutely blew me away when I was watching it. I think it takes a special kind of director to work with Tom Cruise these days, because Tom Cruise, some people would say unfairly, puts these rules in place with a film, but I say fairly just because they're great ideas. Like with this film, he went into it and said that it couldn't be a reboot, it had to be a sequel. He wanted to see characterization in all of the characters and the existing characters moving forward, not just the same as what they were in the first film. He wanted virtually no CGI, and most of the stuff shot with actual jets and Navy equipment. And to me, that's what makes this film so special. So I'm glad that he basically stuck to his guns and got the director on board to work with him with those ideas.
Yeah, I mean, like Tom Cruise, he's been producing movies for quite a while now as well. Like, I don't know if I'm not sure if the first movie that he produced was maybe the first Mission Impossible. I might be completely wrong on that, but I mean, even then, he's had a huge creative role in the movies that he's been making for such a long time now. And at this point, he is almost, you'd say he's probably like the one huge blockbuster actor that is still around. Like, almost every other actor has had huge failures under his belt. And with Tom Cruise, there's very few. I mean, you could probably say, the Mummy movie that he made. But even that, like, that still, I believe, made some money. It wasn't as huge of a success as they wanted it to be. But there's so many other movies that he's made, and he has this huge creative hand in. And I know that in the past that was that was something that actually got me to kind of dislike him a little for a while around Mission Impossible 3. I know that Joe Conahan, who he had worked with when he produced Knock, was originally one of the directors that was going to work on Mission Impossible 3, and I believe the story goes he wasn't happy with the way that he wasn't going to be the director. Tom Cruise is basically the one in charge. And I remember at that point, like, I really kind of got turned off by a lot of his movies, but in the last few years, just after seeing the amount of effort that he puts into just his movies like Mission Impossible and American Made, and things where he doesn't need to be putting his ass on the line as much as he does for his films. And I've got to have respect for the guy to care so much about the movies that he is making that I can understand him wanting to have more of a creative role in it. And as you say, like this movie being directed by Joseph Kosinski, it's a director that he's worked with before on Oblivion. And that was actually another thing with this movie that I think people may have been worried that the movie wasn't going to happen, or it wasn't going to have that same feel as the original when Tony Scott sadly passed away. I know that was something that when that happened, a lot of people just thought, oh, well, there goes the Top Gun sequel. That's not going to happen now. And for somebody to fill those shoes, and at least I in my opinion, he's made a movie that really has that same kind of a feel that the original one had. It doesn't feel like a knockoff. It doesn't feel like it's really leaning heavily into nostalgia. Like everything about it feels authentic. That this is these characters 30 years later.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's exactly the kind of movie that I think a fan of the original film would want. And nowadays, that's something that you don't see, especially like 30 years down the line. You don't see. Look at Star Wars. Look at how much the recent Star Wars movies has turned fans of the originals off. Whereas I fully believe this is the kind of movie that if you love Top Gun, you'll love Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. Do you think Cruise will ever direct? It's been something that's been on my mind for a while, just because he does seem to have all these great visions when he's working on a film, and if you watch enough making-ofs of his films, you'll see him sitting down with the director and almost at times saying to the director, how about if we shot it this way, kind of thing. Do you think he'll ever direct?
I would be interested to see him direct. Maybe in a few years to come. Maybe there'll be a time when he's not starring in the movies, and he might actually take more of a behind the camera role.
Yep.
But I believe at the moment he's happy. I think he's better now as a more of in the producer role. I think.
Yeah.
Than director. So. I mean, that's something I've seen a lot, like, is, I mean, a completely different type of movie, but the movie Pumpkinhead, the horror film Pumpkinhead that was directed by Stan Winston, who worked on the Terminator movies, special effects in those movies. But when he's directing, he had his hands full with directing duties so much that he wasn't actually able to do any of the special effects stuff. So somebody else had to take over as special effects guy, even though you'd think, hey, it's Stan Winston, he's directing a movie, but he actually didn't have a whole lot to do with the special effects in the movie. I think that what Tom Cruise's strengths really do come from more of a producing role in the film, where he's able to, his input is better suited to that rather than being kept busy with the roles of a director. So I think he's at least at this point he's better suited to having a more collaborative role with the director, where he's kind of if anything it might be a co-director kind of role, technically, but it's something I can see him doing in the future, because he obviously does have he's had such a hand in the creative vision behind his films for the last 30 plus years. But yeah, just it's something that I wouldn't be surprised to see him not do it, but at the same time it would be something that I think would be interesting to see in the future. Maybe kind of like the way that Clint Eastwood in his it's been more of a director in his later years than an actor, and it's something that he only really took on later in life.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, before, when you were talking about the nostalgia of this film, but also it moving forward, I liked the fact that the new characters that they brought into this film felt like they worked with what was going on with the film. Quite often when you watch these films, when they'll do like a sequel years later or a reboot, and they bring in new characters, you kind of look at the new characters and you're like, yeah, there's nothing I really like about them, kind of thing. But I think they did it really well here. Like, even the Jennifer Connelly character, her character is referred to in the first film, which I think gives her character more credibility. But then I think what really blew me away with the new characters was the performance of Miles Teller. You get this feeling that he's gone back and watched the original Top Gun so many times that he's picked up all of Anthony Edwards' little things that he does with that character, because there's times when you're watching Rooster in this film, and it feels like you're watching Goose from the first film. There's just little mannerisms there, like lifting his lip a little bit, like at times when he's talking. And I really, really liked that. And I think Miles Teller is almost like a young Tom Cruise. He kind of like started out in blockbusters and then started to do some serious films, and he's becoming a really, really good character actor. And I know that sounds weird because this is a big action blockbuster, but it really does feel that kid has gone back and watched all of Goose's stuff from the first film and brought it all into this film in the way that he would imagine Goose's son would be.
Yeah, I mean, he is a great actor. He's somebody like in the movie Whiplash, he was kind of overshadowed a little bit by J.K. Simmons.
Yep.
And I guess being in Fantastic Four, that was kind of another blemish on his career, I guess you could say. But he has been a great, consistent actor throughout his career, and I'm glad that he worked with Joseph Kosinski on Only the Brave, because otherwise they might not have gotten the pairing of him and Tom Cruise in this movie. But it really is kind of like a father-son dynamic in this film, and it's something it's played up so well, because this is something like this is 30 odd years after the original film. You're seeing Maverick now in a paternal role, where he's trying to be the father to this kid the father that this kid never had, and trying to do what's right for him. And it's something. It was really the performances, the way that these two actors really played off each other was just great, and it sold the relationship perfectly throughout the whole film. I agree as well what you're saying about the rest of the supporting cast. The way that it felt like, I think I might have mentioned this in another episode at one point, but there's a lot of movies where, as you said, just you have a sequel, and here's characters that have been around supposedly have been around for so long, but they just feel like they feel like they've just been written into this movie, and it's not believable at all. Like you say, this one, it feels like the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance, where all the supporting cast in that, we'd never seen them before. It was the third movie in the franchise. We'd never seen these actors or these characters before, but they all felt legitimate. They all felt like, yeah, it was believable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely got the same thing with this. As you say, with Jennifer Connelly and the rest of the rest of the supporting characters in it. There are some returning cast members from the original, as you say, like Val Kilmer and a few flashbacks here and there, but I did appreciate that they didn't feel the need to bring back every single cast member that they could simply for the purpose of nostalgia. Like, I know that I would have liked to have seen Meg Ryan return, like in that, and Meg Ryan's somebody that they could have brought back for this movie, but it suited the story of the movie better, and the relationship between Rooster and Maverick better, that they didn't bring her back.
Yeah.
You know, like that's something that they could have done easily, just to say, oh, look, it's Meg Ryan. But they didn't. It was what worked better for this film and what worked better for the story.
Yeah, and I also thought that there was two characters in this that I thought could have been problematic, and that was the character of Phoenix, played by Monica Barbaro, and the character of Hangman, played by Glenn Powell, because you can tell even from the trailer that Hangman is supposed to be the character. He's almost like the young Maverick. He thinks he's better than all the other pilots that's in the program, and that he's going to be one of the ones that's going to be selected for the mission just simply because he is the best. But I think they actually got those characters really right. I'm glad that they didn't make Phoenix like the top pilot. They made her unsure of herself. She's not even convinced at the start when they give her co-pilot that it's the right team together. I kind of liked that, because I noticed with a lot of these films these days, when they introduce a female character. And this is something that I think Top Gun, like the original Top Gun, couldn't have a female fighter pilot because back in those days they weren't a thing. Females were not allowed to be fighter pilots. It's only been I think in the last 10 years that's changed in the United States. So often when they do that and they bring in a character like that, they'll try and make them the best, like they're trying to make a point from what's happened in the past. But I really liked the idea that they made Phoenix unsure of herself. They didn't overdo the whole sexism, which actually did surprise me because I did recently see a documentary where they talked about sexism in the Defense Force in the United States, and apparently it is a big issue. So I'm kind of surprised that they didn't touch on that more, but I liked the idea that she was on an equal footing with everybody else in that squad. It didn't feel like she had to prove herself because she was female. Like, the only person that it felt like didn't have her respect was herself. She needed to prove to herself that she deserved to be there. So I loved that they did that with that character, and I also liked that they didn't make Hangman the cliched kind of almost bad guy that sabotages his, like, people that he's up against in dogfights and stuff like that, because they really could have made that character a real a-hole. They didn't. They just made him a smartass that thought he was better than everybody else, and then once he starts getting into some of the dogfights, his ego is taken down a notch when he realizes that he's no match for Maverick. So I really liked how they handled those two characters and did them in such a way that the audiences would warm to them rather than sit there and go, oh no, not another scene with this jerk kind of thing. So
yeah, like the conflict between the characters, it all feels very natural, and to that point that I never, like, it wasn't something that was crawling under my skin, which is something that happens sometimes when, like you say, you've got a character that's just a prick for no reason, and you just hate them. And this, all the conflicts, it feels natural. Even John Hamm, whose character is supposed to be a kind of, he doesn't want Maverick to be there, and in a way, he's his hands are kind of tied behind the back by the bond between Iceman and Maverick. Really, that was something I really liked in this movie. That throughout the years, Maverick is still being the know-it-all that he's always been, and he's had Iceman saving his ass of his career. Like, that's the only reason that he's still around is because of Iceman, and I love that dynamic. Just the relationships between the characters throughout the movie, I just loved. And I know that some people might look at the movie and they say, oh, that it could be written better, or the characters could have been fleshed out better. But I really think that it's exactly as deep as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like, had they focused on any more of the school the Top Gun classes, the class that are kind of being tried out for this mission, had they focused any more on them, it would have taken away from the overall story. It would have taken away from the relationship between Rooster and Maverick, or it would have taken away from something else. It's exactly as deep as it needs to be, and that's something that I really appreciated.
What did you think of the visuals as well? I mean, we got a little bit of a taste with the trailer that came out where we saw these amazing shots that are captured this time around. I know they blew me away, but what did you think of the visuals?
It blew me away as well, man. Like I said, that was what I was really looking forward to this movie, was largely for the visuals, and knowing that Tom Cruise could pull it off, knowing that Joseph Kosinski could pull it off, and seeing that this movie, the director of photography, Claudia Miranda, who won an Oscar for Life of Pi, and he worked with Joseph Kosinski on all those other movies. What they've done in this film is just amazing. The way that they have the real actors in these planes, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time watching this movie, because it feels so real. It's exactly why people hate CGI now. When you see a movie like Doctor Strange or something like that, and you know that all these movies, they're filmed against green screen. There's no threat to the actors because just none of it is real. In this case, you could see just how scared the actors are while the planes that they're in are doing these insane maneuvers. And the way that it's shot, how impressive it is, just that blew me away. You felt the same?
Oh, definitely. And I loved one of the lines that Miles Teller said when he was talking about that. He was asked, did the G-forces affect him in any way? Was he throwing up or was he blacking out? And he said, no, I didn't. I didn't have any of those things happen. He said, and if you ask any of the other 5 guys that are here and they say no, they're lying too. I thought that was fantastic because, yeah, there has been, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, there's been some pretty unflattering B-roll footage that's been revealed of most of them bringing up their lunch at some stage with some of the stuff. And you actually think when you're watching this film, like, man, that person is really there kind of thing. And you see some of the scenes where they need, I can't say too much of that, it's going to spoil something, but there's a point where they all have to go through like a really bad G-force experience, and you just know when you're watching it that actor is really going through that, maybe not to the extreme that the movie is portraying, but the veins popping on their heads, like popping out of the side of their heads, and the closed eyes and everything is all real. Like it's not them acting it out because they think that's what it would be like. That is what it is actually like. And I think Tom Cruise revealed yesterday that there's a shot that he wanted in the first film that he wasn't able to get, but they were able to get this time, and that was actually him in the jet as it was propelled off the aircraft carrier. And now when I watch that shot, I just sit there and I'm mesmerized because I know it's all for real. It's just amazing. It adds to the experience. I'm like you. When I go and watch like a big epic sci-fi like a Marvel film, yeah, I enjoy it, but I know that the actor is probably acting in a room with a green screen behind him and none of the creatures are really there. Whereas in this film, one simple little mistake and one of those jets hit a cliff or something like that, and you've lost an actor. Like it's just something that I can't get my head around, but I can't wait to go back and see the film again just because I love the visuals that much.
Yeah, that's. I'm actually going to be seeing it this weekend myself at IMAX. This being a film that's definitely filmed for IMAX and just definitely needs to be seen on a big screen just because of they really wanted to create something visually amazing with this movie. They totally did it. That shot of the plane taking off the aircraft carrier, I know exactly the shot that you're talking about, and it looks amazing. I know that one of the early trailers that they showed off, kind of to hype up the film, was showing that a lot of the stunts in the movie were real. And normally I would say I don't really want to see a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff. I don't like it. Kind of you feel like it sort of ruins the movie magic or whatever. But in these cases, like nowadays, I think you need to when they're doing something for real, they need to tell you, yes, this is real. You're seeing the actors in these positions. Otherwise, I think a lot of people would just ignore it and say, oh yeah, whatever, CGI. But no, they did it for real. You can tell it's real, and yeah, it sells the movie so much better because of that. That's Tom. Like as you said, this it really is a movie that if Tom Cruise as producer, as a kind of a creative force behind the movie, if he didn't push for this movie to be made the way that it was, then it wouldn't have been as mind-blowing as it turned out.
Oh, definitely. Look, and if you are listening, go out and try and find that B-roll footage. It's online. It's not pretty watching Monica Barbaro bring up her catered lunch, but it does really show what they went through to make this film. And, mate, I guess to sum up, what are you going to give this film out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give this 5 out of 5. I legit can't think of I really can't think of any way that this movie could have pleased me any better than it was. Like I said, it's exactly as deep as it needs to be. The writing is exactly as good as it needs to be, and visually it was just amazing. And for it to be a sequel to like a 30-something year plus sequel, it's and for it to live up to what I've been hoping to see for all these years, like pretty much my entire life. If I wanted to, like, hoping to see another Top Gun movie, it did everything right. It blew me away. It's probably going to be my favorite movie of the year. So 5 out of 5 for me, definitely.
Yeah, I'm giving it 5 out of 5 as well. Like I said, I didn't think this film could live up to the hype or what I wanted in my heart. But it did. It did more than that. Now if they just get Nicolas Cage to work with Vin Diesel and make a Gone in 60 Seconds Fast and Furious crossover, my what I want out of cinema will be complete, because that's the only other film I've ever really wanted to see. So, but look, I thought this film would disappoint me. It didn't. It exceeded what I wanted from this film, so I'm giving it 5 as well. And that's it for this episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy. Kyle has given Top Gun Maverick 5 out of 5. I've given it 5 out of 5. Go and see it this weekend. Go and see it on the biggest screen possible that you can see it on. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.